So let's go over what we are going to be learning today, what we're going to be focusing on, what we want to learn. So first of all, today we're going to be talking and focusing on the admin and operations hub. We're going to talk about how that's going to help us dominate the client experience. Every week, we're going to have some type of dominating the client experience, feedback, resources, and sharing. The third thing we're going to be talking about is just streamlining processes. And here's a big one, empowering the company and the team. As an admin, as part of the operations, as an office manager, as an owner, you're on the ground floor, you're communicating, you're moving so many different things throughout the business, getting files through, talking to people. So we want to make sure that you understand how vital your place within each and every company is. So let's start off with some of the issues that improper admin training has within the industry. First of all, lack of training on communication skills for the office team, another industry issue that we have. Poor internal communication. It's really hard for one department to communicate with the next. Job details not being relayed in between departments. Job details, lack of new lead urgency. So sometimes we'll get a new lead. There's not really the sense of urgency that there should be, and things are not moving as fast as they should from one person to the next. Not collecting enough information about a new sales opportunity. That's a big one. There's so much potential, right? When we're having a new lead come in, someone's giving us a call on the front end to develop that and to prepare that client for the sales process and to prepare our team for the sales process. So that's one of the big issues that we've seen over and over again as we work with different companies is when the phone is being answered and there's a new lead, sometimes we're so busy, we have so many tasks going on that we're just trying to answer that call, put their details in, assign it to someone else and move on. When in reality, we're missing all of the potential of setting that person up to execute the sales process and preparing that file for the next team member. So let's move on to a couple of the questions we're going to start asking ourselves within this training. Today, we're going to get more into role playing, talking about things. So I'll be asking you more questions as we go along in comparison to last training was more of setting up the tone for this series. So first of all, do we as the office team understand the goals of our responsibilities? If you can comment in the chat what your goal is within your job. What is your primary goal? Just one goal, one sentence, really quick. Share with us. What do you think is your goal of your exact job? What is your position? For example, for me, my goal within my position and what I do at Business 411 is to keep the team in alignment and empower them with the tools and resources that they need to be successful at what they do. Right? So that might vary when you're in an admin or operations position, but that's my personal goal, sharing that with you guys. Jen, my goal is to provide all the tools for my team to succeed in their roles. Love that one. Tammy's goal, accounts receivable and accounts payable, all banking and onboarding new employees. That's excellent. That's a very, very important role. Tammy's making sure everyone's getting paid. Shout out to Tammy. And the secondary question that we want to ask ourselves is how can I help clients and improve their experience from the very first call to our office? Ooh, we had 3 people comment their goals. Stephanie, my goal is to manage the daily office responsibilities so that our sales team can thrive in the field. Let's go, Stephanie. I love that. Brian, goal is to have everyone operating the same. That's wonderful. Having one standard operations procedure. Our team from Ready Roofing, new to the office manager role, so being comfortable in that role. That's a really great question. A really good answer. One thing that I would ask yourselves, when we went through our last training, we were talking about objectives, right? The reason why it's so important for you to know the objective of why you're doing what you do to support the team, and secondary, why you're doing what you're doing to support the client, is because that helps you stay in alignment no matter how stressful your day may be, no matter what's going on. It gives you something to kind of recenter on and be able to shift your focus to the goal at hand. So motivation is something that can fluctuate and come and go, but consistency and discipline, when you have your objective and your goals clearly outlined and programmed into your mind, allows you to shift that focus regardless of what your level of motivation is for the day. Kelly shared her goal. My goal is to make sure everyone using our manuals or trainings are getting value and success from it by creating detailed, high value content for roofing companies. She's just showing off, guys. Okay, that's all that was. It's showing off. All right. So I want you guys to write this answer to this question for yourself today. Do you understand the goals of your responsibility within the business, and how can you help the clients and improve the experience from the very first call to our office, or from whatever your first interaction with that client might be? Whoever you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis, how can you support? How can you improve what you're doing? Just a couple little bullets for yourself, because I really want to make sure you're getting this information and trying to implement it and use it. So here's a big question that we're going to be kind of going through almost every single training until it's part of our programming, until it's part of our nature and our understanding. Is production a department, a job, or proper execution of scope? All right. I want you guys to go ahead and comment that in the chat. What do you think that it is? A department, a job, or proper execution of scope? Production, remember when we set up last training, and I'm going to be referring to it so that we can always kind of come back and get to the same starting point until we're all on the same page. That's the goal of this training. So the reason why we didn't call production just a department when we did sales, operations, and installation was because when we use that term production and group it into a separate category, a lot of times what happens is we are not in alignment on what the goal of production is, right? Production's not just a job. It's not just a department. It's the proper execution of the scope. As a team, once we get a new file, once we get a new contract, our goal as an entire production team that includes sales, operations, and installation is to execute the scope. Right? So any questions on that? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up. If we have a question on that, go ahead and comment in the chat. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, awesome. 2 thumbs up. Ooh, I like that. I got 2 thumbs up. Thank you, Jonah. So moving on to communication. Right? Why do so many companies struggle with communication, not only internally, but externally, right? So communication, what is it? It's the process of sharing information between people within the workplace and outside of the company. Effective business communication is how employees and management interact to reach organizational goals. Its purpose is to improve organizational practices and reduce errors. So let's talk about some examples of when communication is the most important, when communication is necessary for the business. And again, referring back to this sheet, make sure that you have it. We're going to be focusing on the transfer side, because when you're transferring, how can I ensure, that's the big question when we're asking ourselves how we're transferring a file, how we're transferring from one point to the next. How can I ensure quality when I transfer this file to my team member? What information does your team member need to know? What information does your client need to know at this point of your process? So anywhere within the process, anywhere that we're talking to the client, anywhere we're talking to our team member, we always have to remember our objective on what the quality, what kind of information they need, and how can we improve communication with the client and with our team member in a duplicatable, scalable process. So One of the reasons why I want to really touch on this is because you don't have to wait 1 year to improve your processes. You don't have to wait 1 month. You don't have to wait for a huge quarterly team meeting to talk about simple ways to improve communication. This is a daily practice, because if we're constantly analyzing the breakdowns in communications, and whenever there's a breakdown, you stop, really analyze what is happening and how can we troubleshoot and fix it at scale as quickly as possible. That's a really, really big part of communication, and a reason why I want to highlight that you don't have to wait in order to improve communication. You can start improving communication with your team and with your clients after today's training, right? So what are the objectives for communication? Why do we need to communicate with everyone? So 5 times more employees choose to stay with a company that trains and uses effective communication. So whether you're the owner, you're in a leadership role, you're in an operations or an admin role, if you want to be able to help team members stay, to have great people within your organization, you have to train on communication. Being able to understand when others communicate with you, translate that information, and create results as a team. So a couple of objectives when we're talking about communication. Can you go to the chat? Down, stop doing that, please. Okay, cool. So if you guys want to comment in the chat, one important part of communication within your job. For example, for me, one important part of communication within my job is being able to communicate my vision and then be receptive to how other people perceive that vision. What was their perception of my vision, and how can they help me implement that? So as a business owner and as a leader, that's where my biggest communication is. And that also can be my biggest miscommunication. Sometimes there's a big breakdown if I'm not able to properly communicate my vision in a way that's efficient. Sometimes that might be by not explaining things clearly, by not giving objectives or metrics, or going too big and not being able to turn that into actionable results. Brian, transparency, that's a great part of communication as a leader. Being able to be transparent with your team, where you're at, what can we improve, what we're working on. Anybody else want to share one main objective of communication within your role? And while we have a couple people comment, please do me a favor, comment. I'm going to read out some of the other objectives for communication. So communications for all parties involved during the sales to production process is vital. Outlining clear communication, expectations, and thorough follow-up allows all parties involved to stay on the same page during each stage. That's why we always have objectives at the top of every page, at the top of everything that we do here at Business 411. We need to understand what are the expectations and how can we stay on the same page and have that alignment as a team before this file is transferred. Another reason why internal communication is important, it helps build rapport among employees, managers, and encourages teamwork and collaboration. Effective internal communication is essential for the success and the growth of every organization. So even with these mind-blowing statistics and objectives with communication, here we have a very, very important thing to keep in mind. 85% of the success that you will have in your position comes from having well-developed soft skills and people skills. Yet 15% of the job success only comes from those technical skills and knowledge, right? So an example of that, you don't have to know how to build a roof in order to communicate with a client how their roof or how their process is going to go of working with your business, of how you're there to support them, how you're a great solid communication point within the company for them, a resource to them. You don't have to know every single technical aspect in order to establish confidence within your clients. So even with these statistics, only 72% of the training is actually spent on those hard skills. So everyone is focusing on technical skills, teaching about different things that are specific to your technical abilities. And only 28% of that is actually spent on your soft skills. So most of the time, we're not working on improving communication We're not improving our emotional intelligence, our people skills. We're so focused on the technical aspects of what we do that we forget the 85% of our success comes from those people skills, comes from all of those things that we kind of take for granted and our abilities that we do not focus on mastering. So comment, give me 2 thumbs up if you want to be able to master communication within your job, whether you're a leader, whether you're a supporting team member, whoever you are within the organization. Give me 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up from Tammy, Aurora. Nice. Awesome, everyone. I'd love to hear it. So, what are some soft skills that you can develop without having to even spend an extra dollar, right? Number 1 is going to be organization. And organization does not have to be something that's boring, that is minute, that seem like a task. Being organized really falls into being able to always refer back to your objectives, focus on proper execution, and know what your next steps are. Those 3 important pillars are what fall under organization. Another one is being a good team player. How can you always support your team members? How can you successfully and make sure that everything that you're creating within your business, everything that you do is able to translate to the next person, to most importantly, reflect back to that client experience. Number 3 is being punctual, and that doesn't even cost $1 more. I know sometimes it can be hard to be punctual, especially when we have a lot of different roles that we're fulfilling in life. A lot of us are parents, we're managers, we're admins, we're office managers, we're business owners. So it's a lot to manage at times, but that's something that we can try to do. My thing is I put 12 alarms every day so that I know that I'm on time to start off my day right. Social skills. So this is a big one that is very hard for some of my office, organization, admin, operations type personalities, because those are most of the time introverted people who don't necessarily want that energy, and feels like a burden to them to have to socialize and talk to others. But if this is you, what I want you to practice doing is something that helped me. Naturally, I used to struggle very much with talking to people. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. I grew up in a small town, so I really didn't have that mindset. Whenever I go somewhere, I typically like to give the attention to whoever is, if let's say I'm buying something or I'm talking to them, I try to ask them a question. I try to be engaged and focused on this person who I'm interacting with, and trying to read them, trying to figure out what kind of day they're having. Now, this is not something that they're aware of, but I'm constantly working on that skill of being receptive and understanding that it's not just going to be a chore. It's a way to me improve who I am, and that'll make me a better leader in the long run. So being able to understand the receptive, and not only that, what kind of energy you're giving other people, what kind of effort, what kind of focus. And last but certainly not least, Monica, I'm so glad you joined for this one. So creativity. Being creative within your organization, within your job, is so important. And creativity doesn't mean that we're just going to focus on the artistic side. Creativity happens every time you're developing something, when you bring an idea to life. Whether that idea is implementing a new form, making sure that there's a new thank you email that's going to the client. Those are ways to be creative and strategic, and also being able to adapt to an ever-changing process within the business. So if anyone wants to give me an example of an admin task that they think is creative, this is a hard question. Here, I'm going to see who are my star students with this question. So one more time. What's an admin task that can be creative, or an operations task that can be creative? And I'll give you guys 1 minute to think about it. Ooh, that's amazing. Tammy, implementing a daily win email for the team. Tammy, that is a great example of an admin task that can be creative. Everyone, that's awesome, Tammy. Thank you so much. That's great. Absolutely. I totally agree. And actually, I think that's something that we should do, Kelly. We should take note of that.
We do it. We have our announcements chat. We're always complimenting each other.
Yeah, we do have, we definitely do have a team chat where we celebrate a lot of our wins, but a daily win, that's amazing. A daily win email. Stephanie, really good team building events. That's a great admin task that can be creative. One that I'm going to share with you guys that is often missed is how we are working on the communication and the development with the client. And what we're really going to be focusing on today, the creativity that we can bring to the just lead intake process, right? Instead of being a chore, instead of being something that we just need to get out of the way, how can we be more creative with the way that we engage with our clients on the front end? So here's another question for you all to consider. And this is another creative channel that, again, we're focusing on throughout this whole process, is how can we improve communication within the organization? That's the focus of today's lesson. Creative communication. How can we engage clients? And then today we're specifically talking about the lead process. So let's start off with workplace communication with a lead. So today we're going to be reviewing the 4 steps through the lead process, which is to intake, qualify, assign, and schedule. And sometimes the scheduling is done by the person answering the phone. In some organizations, it's done by the sales reps after it's assigned. So whichever model that your company is going with, totally fine. It's not a right or a wrong way. It just depends on the company's size and what their capacity is and able to be able to do that. So let's start off with the lead protocol process objectives. Within this process, what are some of our objectives? What are we trying to accomplish? And remember, we're always going to be focusing on asking ourselves the right questions that are going to give us the results that we want with the client. And so remember, that's all part of the rapid planning method. Results, what's our purpose, and what must we do? So intake, what exact client details need to be input into the CRM? Where did the client hear about us, and what is their sense of urgency? And the reason why their sense of urgency so early on is important is because that's going to prepare us for that sales process. Remember, we're not just thinking of how can I just get this appointment out of the way? How can I move on to the next thing? We're thinking, how can I prepare this client and our company to execute the sales process? Next, what is the client's pain point and how can we build a relationship with them as a company? So taking pride in this appointment instead of just, hey, I already put it on your calendar, so-and-so sales rep. How can you actually talk to the client, create a conversation with them, and be that pillar that the client knows that they can rely on within the organization? A lot of times there's a higher turnover with sales than there is with admin and operations team. So it's really important to understand that your role within the organization and your client interactions may be the only ones that are going to last through the long-standing process of the sales. Or if you're doing insurance claims, the client might, by the time certain things fall through, that sales rep may or may not be here. So your job when you're intaking that lead is to build as much rapport as possible and interview that client. The next part is to set the appointment. What is as soon as they are available and who needs to be present? Instead of asking, is every decision maker going to be there? I like to say who's going to be present, and we'll go into now how we're going to ask some of these questions to the client and what does that look like. And then last but not least, did you input all of the client details into the CRM and assign to the correct representative? So let's go into intake. Our first goal is to provide the client with the greatest experience when answering their call and convey a high sense of urgency regarding their inquiry. We're going to enter all of the client details into the CRM and double check and confirm with the client what we are entering into the CRM in real time. And the reason why is we just want to make sure whatever we're inputting is accurate. That way we didn't miss a number, or we didn't get their email wrong, or there wasn't a misspelling of their last name. Just helps us be more accurate during that intake process. There's two different ways that we're going to be handling a new lead or a new phone call. First of all, when it's a new client, before we get into the qualification process, there are some immediate information that we need regardless before we go into interview, which is their name, their phone number, their address, their email, and where did they hear about us. If it's an existing client, this is extremely important to understand what the issue at hand is. So for example, are they looking to pay a bill? Are they looking to move forward with something? What do they need help and support with from our team at this specific time point? Before you transfer this call to someone else, before you move on to the next step with an existing client, my biggest recommendation is to always make sure that if it's you answering the phone or someone else, that all of those notes are entered into the CRM. And if it needs to be moved to upper level management, making sure you got as much detail as possible so that the client doesn't have to repeat the same information to someone else. And then notify whoever the responsible person, if they need to speak to sales, if they need to speak to management, if it's a larger issue, that it was routed to the same person with as much information as possible. So qualifying objectives. The reason why qualifying is so important is because we want to do business with the right people, and we want to make sure that we don't miss those people, that they didn't fall through the gaps of a busy sales rep schedule. So much of the qualifying and building rapport with the client happens before the sale in many other industries and in many other processes. But in roofing, we've really missed the mark because we think as soon as the client calls, as long as we schedule an appointment and move them on to the sales rep, that's our job and that's done. Whereas the real truth is, so much in other industries, they've spent so much time talking to the client, figuring out, building brand prior to the sales process execution, that by the time the sales process begins, the client is already sold on the brand, the business, and the communication. So I want to encourage you to take a look at how you're currently doing intake, how you're looking at qualifying, and look at those communication gaps that you currently have on building rapport, on building engagement with the client. That's actually one company that I was at recently consulting for. The intake process was, hi, blah, 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 roofing company, how can I help you today? Oh, hi, I have a leak. I was wondering if I can get a quote. Okay, awesome. When is the soonest you're available? What's your phone number? What's your email? When just getting the client details and taking them straight to sales. Whereas the real client experience begins. Hi, so-and-so roofing, how can I help you? Oh, I have a roof leak. How quickly can you guys get out here, right? Let's go over how that is supposed to be answered. So first of all, we want to understand how we can best serve the client at this phase. What are their needs and how we're preparing the sales rep and the client to execute the sales process. Let's start off with our qualifying checklist and understand the goal of this phone call. The goal of the interview process is to fully understand the client's needs and document them into our CRM as detailed notes. This will prepare our sales team to best serve the client and help bridge the gap between our company and becoming the client's contractor of choice. Asking these detailed questions and taking the time to truly listen while taking notes is crucial to the interview process. You are the client's first advocate. Here are some of the questions that I like to ask that I would want to know as a roofing contractor with a new client calling me right now. First of all, does this person have an active leak? Because if they do, that's going to extremely change the approach and the sense of urgency. My first priority is to get someone out who can not only go and give this person a quote, but tarp the job as quickly as possible. If this is not an active leak, are they getting other bids? Yes or no? Are they doing financing, cash, or insurance? Remember, I want to go prepared with options. I want my sales team to have as much information as possible. Multi-story, age and type of roof. and how long they've been living in the property. Now, these next few questions are the biggest parts of the interview process and often missed. What are your plans with the property? Are they moving? Are they about to move in? Are they moving out? Are they in the process of selling? Do they live here and their insurance company is going to drop them if they don't get a new roof? What is the status of this person other than having a roof issue, other than having an active leak? How can we service them? How can we provide them information? And how can we best prepare our sales team for this appointment? How long have they been dealing with this issue? That's so important to understand how long they've been dealing with something, because it'll give us more insight into how long they've been procrastinating. And is there anything we should know about you and your property? Is there anything we should know about them? Why? Are they busy? Are they a mother? Are they working from home? Are they someone who has a lot of time? Are they going to sit there and this is something that we should maybe book for an hour, hour and a half instead of just 30 minutes? How long should we book this person for? So understanding this personality, understanding the attention that they might need, understanding their sense of urgency, understanding their plans, who they are. That is the goal of the first phone call. That's how we can turn the client into a client long before sales has ever gotten there. And if you want to see if this works, I challenge you, whether you're the owner, you're the admin, whoever you are within the organization, if it's not you answering the phone, sit down, try to take a phone call from a new lead and try these questions yourself so that you can see the rapport and the conversation, the difference with that client on that first initial call and how it completely elevates the sales process. Last but not least, how soon are they looking for a resolution? If they have an active leak, probably the same day. So then we're going into assigning the rep. We want to make sure that we've input all of this conversational details into our CRM, and based off of the client's needs, assigning to the best suited representative of your team. Now, a good example of how to input the notes into the CRM properly. This client called in, they have an active leak, they're getting multiple bids right now. They have a temporary tarp over their roof, or something like they have a shrink wrap over the roof, whatever that situation might be. They've currently been living in the home for 10 years. They are looking to stay in this home. This is their long-term property. The wife works from home, so she'll be there for the appointment. The husband is going to make time to be there for the appointment as well, so that they can get a resolution, or the wife's just going to be there for the appointment herself. So the sales rep already knows this is a one-legged appointment. I'm going to have to make sure that I build enough rapport with this initial client, with this initial with the wife, so that the husband can be able to communicate. So we're already giving all of the information that we just got, that conversation, all the report that we just built, and putting it into the CRM for the client to build engagement with our sales rep. So rep assignment, a lot of companies, how they do the distribution may vary. So I recommend having some kind of way to keep tabs on your rotation. That way there's not anyone feeling left out or like they're not getting the right amount of leads. Whatever your rep assignment checklist is, I recommend to always have a protocol for it written out. So if the sales team wants to ask, okay, why am I getting assigned X, Y, Z amount of leads, and this person's getting assigned X, Y, and Z amount of leads, look, this is our written out protocol. This is exactly how we intake the leads. There's nothing extra being done. This is exactly how it fits into our process. So in this example that I used here, once the lead is going to be assigned, it moves to the sales rep. And again, this I've found is like 7 out of 10 companies actually schedule it like this. They give the lead to the sales rep and the sales rep calls and schedules them. Now, other companies that I work with do the process automated and the sales rep automatically gets it. I've added this part here. So if your sales rep is scheduling the lead themselves, they have a process and a protocol to follow. And again, there's not a right or wrong way in this example. This is just based off of how many employees you have and your current business model. So some of the scheduling objectives, if sales is going to be scheduling the appointment for themselves after receiving the lead, First of all, within 1 to 2 hours of receiving a new lead, during working hours, they must schedule an appointment with the lead. The second objective, set the expectations for the appointment and answer any preliminary questions. Introduce yourself to the property owner and establish yourself as the sales point of contact. So they're making sure that the transfer is being done properly. And they've now become the representative on this client contact, on this account. So a couple of the appointment setting, what is as soon as they are available, who needs to be present, and introduce yourself to the property owner and build the basic level of rapport. So a couple of the things that need to happen before the appointment. So if this is the person within the office doing the appointment, or if it's the sales rep, I still recommend all of these items to be done. The objective is to set the appointment in a timely manner and not make the client feel like they are just another appointment. Investing the effort into taking the time to complete a call with the client allows you to not be the stranger arriving to their property. It gives you a competitive edge when competing against other contractors who may not even remember the property owner's name. You are now a familiar name and voice to them. Now, when you arrive to the property, you may have talking points and have already built rapport ahead of time. So these are important objectives if it's the sales rep. Now, if you're the admin or anyone within the office setting the appointment, these same following guidelines apply to either person scheduling appointment. Number one, I recommend ordering a report ahead of time, measurement, iRoofing, Eagle View, whatever you need, so that you have the measurements already ready within your CRM, within the company prior to the appointment. What is the best time to share the details of the inspection with anyone else who needs to know them? This is the opportunity to pre-sell the inspections process as a company and as an organization. Hey, look, what's something very different about our company is we provide detailed inspection reports. We're not there to just give you an estimate. So it's very important when our team completes their inspection, after they're done checking the attic, checking all of the components of your roofing system, and documenting all of the damage or the results that they have found, that they have the opportunity to share them with anyone who needs to see this crucial information. This is your property may be undergoing major construction. So we want to prepare you. We want to prepare your team. We want to prepare your family for this. So we pride ourselves in educating our clients, and it is important to explain the results and details thoroughly. What to expect on the appointment? What's the length of the appointment? Typically, it's going to take about an hour, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We're going to be able to provide you the inspection and the estimate on the spot. Remember, if you tell them that they're going to get the inspection and the estimate on the spot, and you're trying to book this appointment, you're more likely to get both decision makers who need to be present there. This is a way to be able to establish that with communication, establish that sense of urgency, and now you're going into, hey, you need to be here, you need to see this, you need to see these results. And then the last, I do not recommend, if at all possible, to do an inspection on a roofing system or quote a roof without anyone present and then emailing it to them. Unless you have a completely tailored virtual sales process, you really have to be able to be set up for something like that in order to properly convert. So until you're at the point where you have things automated, you still need to make sure that you're meeting with the client and they're available at the time of the appointment. And then I do recommend having the colors they're interested in available. So always asking them while you've got them on the phone, what colors they're interested in, so that the sales rep could bring some color boards, some examples, etc. So our last 10 minutes, let's go into a Q&A if we have any questions. And I'm also going to go ahead and just pull up the PDF for today. Let's go into the chat. I know that's a lot of information that we just went over, and I want to make sure that we answer everyone's questions. This is the PDF for this week. So it goes over everything that we just spoke about today. The intake and qualifying protocol. And then here's some ideas for the appointment setting scripts. And then an area for you all to write your notes. Okay, so let's go over this. What questions do you all have in regards to intaking a new lead? And if you don't have any questions, talk to me about your own process for intaking your leads, right? How can you see this working? How can you see this not working? Great comment, Tammy. I can see it working when the calls come into the office. Right now, they go right to the salespeople, and I feel we lose a lot by doing that way. 100%, I have to agree with you. That's a big issue because there's not any time for the company to set up and build rapport with the actual client. Now, one thing that I want you guys to think of, the sales reps, while they're very important and vital to the organization, again, they may not be here forever working with the client, and it's our opportunity and it's our responsibility as a business to engage with that client and make sure that they're our client. And that's why so many companies have low conversion rates. If you're only converting at a 15-20% rate of those appointments booked, that right there is going to tell you that your intake and your sales process in the beginning is probably an issue in the model that you guys are probably using now. But for sure, Tammy, I would figure out how we can get those clients to talk to the office first so that you can intake them properly, so you can get that client and have them become a client for the company first. Build communication with the company first. And here's a second one. If you have someone bad answering the phone, like a receptionist with an attitude, someone who's short, someone who's like overworked and wants to hang up the phone as quickly as possible, that's a huge red flag. If you're as an owner not listening to the calls and the way that they're answered, or a manager or a leader, even the sales rep, whoever is answering the phone, whoever is talking to clients, those calls need to be recorded because it gives us an opportunity to know where our weaknesses are and where we need to improve as an organization. So I honestly really recommend, if there's a way to bring them into the office first, build the communication and build the rapport with them prior to them meeting with a sales rep, so that if that sales rep is here tomorrow or gone the next day, the actual client knows who they can speak to within the business and within the organization regardless. And also sometimes if the client has no rapport with anyone within the business, you won't know if something is going wrong with a specific sales rep, because that client's not going to have anyone to call. They only feel like that sales rep is representing the company and that's their communication point and that's who they need to talk to. So that's a really important part of that I didn't really talk about too much, is if something's going wrong in the sales process, if they didn't get the attention and service they deserve, if you have that communication built within the office, they're always going to come back to you. They're always going to share what's happening. And I always recommend a second step after an inspection and an estimate that has been scheduled, calling the client and asking them how the salesperson did. Again, another touch point in building the rapport and building the communication, so that client knows that they are the company's client, that the company cares and the company is going to be there, not just the sales rep. Wow.
You wanna say it, or you want me to
Yeah,
say it?
you can post it. So Kelly just wanted to give a huge shout out to Monica and the Roman Roofing team. They're one of our marketing clients, and we just got a notification from our marketing team that they booked 14 out of the 16 calls that were generated for them this week. So nice job, Monica. Congratulations. Okay, so for our quote of the day of the week, I want to first off give you all a huge thank you for investing your time, for investing your energy, and going one step further to grow and develop yourselves as leaders, as owners, as people within the organization that are the infrastructure and the sounding board of the clients, and everyone is counting on you, right? So here's your quote for the week. Aim for the moon. If you miss it, you may hit a star. W. Clement Stone. So aim for the moon. If you miss it, you may hit a star. I want to say thank you all once again for coming today. If you're loving this program, if this program has added any kind of value to you, please let me know, send me a message, comment on our Facebook. I want to say thank you to Todd. Also, thank you to Monica for sharing some of your results on my Facebook. We want to build this group up and we want to continue to help more people out there in the industry. Think about it. There's so many admins out there. They don't have any support. They don't have any resources. No one has even really been on a call like this. So please share this information, share whatever you're able to get out of it, because we can help the next person and we can continue to pave the way together.